Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Navjit Singh. I am CEO and co-founder of Armezo Solutions. On behalf of entire team, I thank you all for taking time out from your busy schedule to attend this exciting webinar on game-based assessment. I wish that you will find this webinar informative and have many takeaways for implementing an online game-based solutions in your organization. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Anamika Sharma, a colleague and a very dear friend whom I have personally known for over 5 years. In spite her busy schedule, I have been able to pull her for doing this seminar and sharing her in views on the game-based assessment. Let me introduce her to you all. Dr. Anamika Sharma is India's leading psychometrician and business psychologist with a PhD in psychology and with 19 years of consulting experience in the design and implementation of large-scale executive behavioral interventions and coaching programs. Anamika expertise in designing and deployment of psychometric assessments to support personal learning, team development, cultural shift, and organizational change. Few quick ground rules before we start this webinar. The session will be recorded and available online on Armezo website. Do keep your microphone on mute at all times. At the end of the webinar, there will be a QA session. Do write your questions in the chat window and we will take them up. Now passing baton to Dr. Anamika.
And a very warm welcome to all of you. As the topic of the webinar suggests, game-based assessments and how they can be a game changer in the talent management, measurement and talent management process. As an employer, we all want to recruit and retain the right employees. But to do so, we first have to attract the best candidates and then select those who have the capability, the potential, and who are the cultural fit for the organizations to succeed in the organizations and in turn contribute to the productivity. Assessments have long been used to take the guesswork out of the selection process and the employee retention process, and to help recruiters identify the most appropriate candidates in their applicant pool. With the new workforce constituting 45% of millennials based on a recent study done by a Manpower Capital organization, and most of them looking forward to a unique assessment experience, games or game-based assessments have unanimously been found to be one of the best ways to create an employer branding, attracting the right talent and engaging the talent in the organization. That's how organizations as diverse as Domino's, Delta Airlines, Google, Lego, L'Oreal, McDonald's, PwC, Siemens, and Uber are introducing games, gamified assessments, and game-based assessments to achieve a range of objectives, such as the top being promoting a modern and attractive employer branding, attracting a wider and a right set of talent, differentiating one's hiring process, engaging and motivating the employees, and showcasing the job scenarios and potential career paths while assessing the knowledge, skills, abilities, and the personality attributes of the incumbents. There's a constant debate on the advocacy of game-based assessments and its relevance for various stages of employee life cycle and different use cases, whether we are using it for campus hiring or lateral hiring, learning and development programs in the organization, or doing succession planning. The tenacity that the game-based assessments have to be scientifically validated while incorporating the game mechanics. Keeping that in mind, in today's webinar, I would like to focus on what are the driving trends behind the game-based assessments, how are the game-based assessments different from games or gamified assessments, In the entire process of talent management, the candidate or the employee is the key. So why is it critical to ensure a good candidate experiencing during the assessment process, and how game-based assessments drive it? Let's also look at how organizations can leverage using game-based assessments over traditional psychometric assessments. And of course, how can we ensure that the game-based assessments will be able to predict the candidate's success in the organization? Improving candidate selection and increasing employee engagement with psychometrics is one of the burning needs. How do we know when someone is right for the job? Is it their glowing resume or their interesting and witty answers to your interview questions? Or maybe the person is related to someone influential in the organization. If the job is very well defined and easy to observe, just like driving a forklift, the best way is probably to ask them to perform some skilled tasks such as stacking pallets. But for executive roles, which requires a complex mix of cognitive and collaborative capabilities, such assessments are difficult to design and deliver, thereby selecting candidates for those roles is very more difficult. We have witnessed a shift in the way organizations are making their decisions regarding their talent assessment and management. However, a recent study by Willis Starr Watson reflects on the state of psychometric assessments in India, whether it is using traditional or game-based assessments, and how it is impacting the workforce engagement in the organization. A closer glance at the study clearly reveals that the most critical factor driving the decision to use psychometric assessments is the user experience and the higher predictability of behavior at work. The million-dollar question before us is how we are assessing and thereby making decisions regarding hiring, engagement, and retention, which directly impacts our talent management strategy. Several researchers throw light on how these challenges are impacting the businesses in a big way. If you see the study conducted by one of the leading consulting companies, 56% of employers face challenges in finding the suitable candidate as due to less engaging test-taking experience. The candidate may not often complete the test and thereby it impacts the employer branding. Biases in the talent assessment impact the hiring decision and hence impact the businesses, as one misfit will reduce the productivity at work and thereby it leads to increase in attrition in the organization. This also directly impacts the manpower cost by 1.5 to 3 times for any business. Now let's look at what may the future of psychometric assessments look like. As an organization, what you should look for in any psychometric assessment to be at par with international test construction standards, you have to clearly reflect on whether the test is reliable, valid, and has relevant norms for your industry or the roles you are hiring. For decades, traditional assessments have been striving to ensure that the tests are standardized, provide consistent results, and how they have been striving to become efficient to accurately predict the behavior of the individuals. With the advent of technological tools in data analytics and machine learning, game-based assessments certainly would have an upper hand in not only providing an engaging and immersive experience, but also real-time predictability of behavior with much higher precision and accuracy. Quickly spotting the best in your applicant pool, engaging with your candidates, and making sure you stand out from your competition are becoming increasingly essential for all recruiters. Graduate age candidates tend to expect stronger engagement, immediate feedback, and a selection process that is reflective of the mobile world in which they operate. Taking all this in consideration, companies want an updated type of psychometric assessment that gives them the robust information they need about the applicant's capabilities and a fantastic user experience for the candidates. The shift from paper and pencil to next generation online assessments to game-based assessment enables more flexibility, responsiveness, and contextualization in making any decision regarding the employee. As a futuristic organization, how can you leverage using game-based assessments? It certainly creates a differentiated selection process as the candidates remember the company having an innovative approach to assessment. Candidates want the assessment. Candidates want the assessment to be serious as it reflects the importance of their application. At the same time, a hiring tool that support any corporate forward-thinking, market-leading brand value for the organization. It also supports the desire to create a more diverse and inclusive applicant pool. Game-based assessments are also looked at being more contemporary assessment process. In fact, they are designed for and are delivered to mobile and web apps, integrating seamlessly with your application system or ATS and your HRMS. Yeah. It, of course, thereby increases the recruitment efficiencies. How? You generate more applicants and higher quality applicants who find it engaging. Now, let's look at what are game-based assessments. There's a lot of confusion around what are game-based assessments and how are they same as gamification, or is there a demarcation around it? Often colleagues in our fraternity use the terms game-based assessments or gamified assessments as interchangeable. But the fact is that what people recall as gamification is just the basic tenet of game-based assessment. Gamification, or as people interchangeably see it as game-based assessment, primarily involves game thinking, married with game mechanics, and how using psychological models can be used to measure personality and cognitive attributes, leading to a holistic assessment of the individual in the process. As we were discussing about how people often confuse and treat gamified assessments and game-based assessments as one and the same, the confusion exists around as everything tends to get bundled under the umbrella heading of gamification. But as a fact, games, gamification, and game-based assessments are three different things. Gamification usually means adding game elements or the building blocks and features of games to other areas such as education, marketing, communication, training, and assessment. Games can also help recruiters to communicate with and build relationship with potential applicants and candidates in a new and exciting way. However, all these benefits can only be achieved with a bespoke or customized game. You will never truly distinguish your employer brand if you choose the same generic game that is used by your competitor. Now, the clear-cut demarcation of why game-based assessments are more relevant when you're trying to assess the psychometric properties or assessing the person on the psychological aspects like cognitive skills and personality traits. Game-based assessments, of course, take an upper hand. And why? Because it is a purpose-built game that is designed to psychometrically assess how someone responds to the choices available in the context of a game. The game scenario is carefully designed and psychometric measures are embedded into the structure. Instead of simply layering game elements such as goal, cover stories, and points into the assessment, the game becomes a crucial part of how candidates are responding and behaving. So if you see here, while games are, ready reckoners, immersive, quick, and have proven to at least assess the cognitive ability in a good way, game-based assessments amalgamate all the properties of games and gamification to ensure that you are able to assess all the attributes through one game. The question that might be coming to your mind is, how do you choose what is the right tool for you? Games, gamified assessments, or game-based assessment? Here we have listed down the usability of the three, the ease of development as a company, quality of results, and what are the key benefits of using games or gamified assessments or game-based assessments. Clearly, the goal is to introduce and use the right tool for the right purpose. Games, no doubt, are a good option, as I discussed in the previous slide as well, if you are looking to attract and not measure applicants. However, if you are looking to assess candidates, then gamified assessments, game-based assessments, or traditional psychometric assessment, or a combination of these three, can provide a more viable, complementary solution that can help you not only engage your candidates, but also identify and select the right people. As an L&D manager, if you would like to use game-based assessments or games or gamified assessments for engaging the participants in a learning and development program, definitely all three can be used. However, game-based assessment always will give you upper hand, as you'll be able to combine assessment data and paradata to provide in-depth insights into each participant. Whichever option you choose, you need to be sure that your preferred assessment tool is valid, reliable, and provide the necessary data points to measure the required abilities, personality traits, or is relevant for the job role or the situation you are assessing the person for, so that you can make a fair and objective selection decision. In this relatively new field of games, gamification, and game-based assessment, it is important to choose a partner who has the right blend of psychometrics and gaming experience and expertise to support you and meet your needs. Often, talent practitioners would want to use game-based assessments for attracting, screening, and selecting and learning, engage the talent during the learning and development programs. In a study conducted by one of the big four companies on multinational HR and talent practitioners, it was found that more than 75% would use games as part of an attraction campaign and would want to consider using game-based assessments as part of their screening and selection strategy. In addition, more than 75% also found that they would use gamification elements as part of their learning and development. This growing interest in game-based assessments from a desire to increase engagement levels among candidates and employees alike, and in the process to bring more visibility, openness, and a greater sense of accomplishment into the workplace. On one hand, a traditional personality assessment relies on an individual's ability and willingness to accurately describe themselves. A game-based personality test measures specific personality traits or subconscious behaviors which will be revealed by how they play the game. Because game-based assessments often measure behavior, they may be less prone to socially desirable responding, faking, or cheating. This all, yeah. Now the question is, why should you use game-based assessments for assessing candidates? A study done by one of the leading pharma companies transformed graduate selection process by including game-based assessments within a focused campaign, which led to a 32% increase in applications, a higher quality candidates applying and progressing through the process, more than 50% increase in acceptance of offers, and a growth in the number of applicants from key target universities. It was also found that a better candidate experience was reported by most of the candidates, and they were able to hire candidates who aligned with the core strategic value of innovation and diversity. Strong positive candidate feedback was received in the recruitment process, and game-based assessment was taken as a market-leading activity for them. So this in turn also reduced the time to hire due to process inefficiencies. As we all know that we're dealing with Generation Z and millennials who enjoy playing games as they find it more stressful and engaging. At the same time, as an organization, we are not analyzing only what a wrong or a right answer is. The focus is also analyzing the subconscious behavior of the individual. And of course, they apply for any given job role. There's a strong hype to use game-based assessment in the talent measurement process. On one hand, there's a skepticism about the overall reliability and validity of the game-based assessments compared to traditional methods of assessments. Let's see if game-based assessments really are hyped or what is the reality behind those myths. We've just started experiencing the transformation game-based assessments can bring to the entire scene of hiring and organizational development. Being new, there is a lot of discussion and comparison, of course, against the traditional methods of assessment. And if game-based assessments are actually able to predict the job performance in a scientifically valid and accurate manner. Let's explore the myths surrounding the game-based assessments and their ability to predict the job performance and whether they hold any ground against the basic principles of validity and accuracy compared to the traditional assessments. The first myth is whether game-based assessments are valid and accurate in predicting job fitment and performance. Traditional assessments, as we all know, have been proven for long to predict the job fitment and performance. But the question is that are game-based assessments sacrificing on the validity of the assessment? If it's not predicting, let's see that if it's not predicting job performance or isn't validated to do so, then there's no justification to use it for the talent management process. Undoubtedly, game-based assessment creates a layer of fun experience while providing important predictive information for employers. While the candidates get an engaging and enticing experience, the employers get a deep understanding of their strengths. As they're typically modeled on and validated against existing traditional psychometric assessments, they have proved to be valid and accurate in measuring cognitive and affective behaviors simultaneously as compared to traditional assessments. Assessment bias refers to the qualities of an assessment that unfairly penalize a group because of their gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, religion, or some other group defining characteristics. Game-based assessments use various techniques to deal with bias and adverse impact, using culturally fair situations and test items, using non-controversial language and non-stereotypical and easy to understand language, a few methods that can be used to ensure a bias-free game-based assessment. Well, game-based assessments, on the other hand, have the ability to mix multiple assessments into one to judge the candidate based on a single assessment alone. There are assessments which are designed to evaluate the basic employability, job fitment, and forms a strong basis for coaching around career development. Game-based assessment, as we discussed earlier, measure the subconscious behaviors and are not dependent only on the candidate's self-perceptions. This enables game-based assessments to measure a mix of personality, cognitive, and affective skills, thereby demystifying the myth that games are generally good at measuring only a narrow range of behaviors. Traditional assessments often lead to stress and test anxiety and often detest it. But game-based assessments ensure that the testing environment is not inducing stress, as they are more fun while attempting the assessment, and thereby enabling the test takers to respond genuinely. As we are dealing with Generation Z and millennials, the candidate's test-taking experience, whether it is in campus hiring or lateral hiring, or during any engagement activity in the organization, goes a long way in determining the employee's engagement and retention in the company. Hence, it's non-debatable that the candidate experience is the most critical component of the talent assessment process. Let's look at certain case studies on how the candidate experience plays a critical role in determining the assessment experience. One of the recent studies showed that 76% of candidates in India prefer a game-based assessment over a traditional psychometric assessment. Why? Because they feel that it is more engaging. They are able to focus or have a better attention span, and they seem fair to the candidates. In fact, in one of the studies, there was a 90% positive response from candidates around the employer branding, engagement, and fairness of the assessment. Another study of a leading BFSI company also reflected on the candidate's experience impact on the organization's talent management strategy. It was realized that if the candidate experience is not great, it leads to more than 40% of poor application experience. Candidates often respond that they would prefer to engage with a company that has a positive candidate experience. And of course, more than 60% of candidates also reflected that assessment and L&D initiatives has been highly monotonous to keep them engaged. Let's look at why focus on a candidate's experience is extremely important and critical for a business. Making your candidate experience extraordinary isn't just an investment in your talent acquisition strategy. It also helps you, and it is, in fact, an investment in the sustainability of your entire business. A study by MIT Sloan School of Management and Dr. Jacob Morgan on employee experience also reveals that ensuring that the assessment has a higher engagement candidate experience leads to improved employer branding as high as above 33%. At the same time, it increases the customer satisfaction um, as high as more than 50%. It also reflects on the progressive mindset of the organization because the employees believe that the way the company manages their talent reflect on their attitude and mindset for their employees. At the same time, through an immersive experience, candidates can get a much richer idea of what work at your organization is like, while also feeling like they can show their skills more realistically. Integrating a technology-aided testing environment with a more traditional psychometric assessment uh, provides hiring organizations with a wealth of data that can convey the experience while also balancing it with the scientifically validated assessment process. Recruitment or talent assessment mistakes remain a reality. And despite the proliferation of selection methods, its success rate stands at only 54% based on a recent study by one of the leading consulting companies, which means a hiring or a line manager makes one bad decision for every two cases. So, trying to predict how a person is going to behave and perform at work is not an easy task. That is why making a good talent related decision should not anymore be based on gut feeling or liking for the candidate. It should be all about combining multiple data points for a more accurate and productive analysis of a candidate's potential. Due to their scientific construction and validity, game-based psychometric assessments matches well with the big data approach and provides accurate and unbiased insight into people's behavior and potential. The question before us is that what's the evidence that the game-based assessments will be able to predict the success of an employee in the organization? Various researchers reflecting on the impact of games, gamifications, and game-based assessments is in its infancy, though there have been some promising developments which highlight their effectiveness. One of the critical factors being whether the gaming elements, when incorporated into the assessment process, can lead to a realistic result. As the candidates are more likely to immerse themselves into the role, using game-based assessments can improve the quality of the measurement from the traditional assessments. A study by Dr. Wozniak highlights that someone's behavior in a game is not necessarily representative of their behavior in real life. However, as they are designed by experts, it may also influence how organizations choose these assessments because based on whether there is a pre-validated approach for that. A study by research psychologists Banfield and Wilkerson has reported on user perceptions of the fairness of using games in corporate settings. They found that game-based assessments can not only enhance the perception of fairness, it also increases the motivation level of the user. It's safe to assume that the same applies to game-based assessments for different business cases. A validity study conducted by Dr. Montefiore found that individuals are able to modify their scores in a traditional personality questionnaire by pretending to be a people person or a strategic person. However, when they were exposed to game-based assessments, uh, the, there was a high resistance to distortion, even when it was a self-reported measure. This clearly highlights the need to choose game-based assessment as a first choice to increase the validity of your selection process. As we all know, games or game-based assessments are far more enjoyable and provides a more immersive and enriching experience for the test takers. Thereby, they also reduce the negative candidate reactions during the testing process. Now, I would like you to take you through the steps that are required to predict the behavior at work. The key point here is to start with what would you like to measure and choose the assessment accordingly. Administer the assessment on the target group. If you choose, say, a game or a game-based assessment or a gamified assessment, then always consider the customizing element to fit your brand. Branding assessment elements through white labeling or any other mechanism can serve to enhance the competitive advantage of your assessment process. Today, in the competitive market where we are as employers fishing in the same talent pool, assessment, of course, should be speaking about your employee company's brand and act as a clear-cut differentiator against your competition. If you're looking to assess applicants for a specific job role, then you also need to understand what good and bad looks like in that role, which means what kind of profile is going to suit to your business requirements. Unless and until you effectively and objectively get a profiling done and have benchmarks, you're risking in bringing up unconscious bias into the process. If you are using a game-based assessment for selection, it should predict performance on the job. So you can ensure that the assessment is valid or accurate and is able to predict the performance of the individuals in a fair manner. Ensure that you get a success profile created for your prospective hires through predictive modeling. In a nutshell, game-based assessments help us to differentiate an organization, raise brand awareness, engage prospective talent from all backgrounds, and provide a more immersive candidate experience to enable making it fair and objective in any kind of talent management decisions. To be effective, game-based assessments must be grounded in scientifically validated psychometric rigor and should also provide meaningful job-relevant insights about your incumbents and prospective hires. Choosing the right partner will be a critical success factor for any organization, as a blend of psychometric and game-oriented assessment development experience and expertise is required to help identify and implement the most appropriate assessment strategy. Having said that, Armezo is one of the pioneers in introducing game-based psychometric assessments in India. Before we move to Q&A session, I would like to hand over the baton to Mr. Navjit Singh to explain in brief about their game-based assessment.
Thank you, Anamika. Hi, everyone. I think it was a very, very informative session. I hope you all have gained some insights about the game-based assessments, its implementation, what all is required in a company to successfully implement the same. Now, before we move to a QA session, and I would request everyone to type their questions in the chat of the screen. and we will take questions one by one. And till the time, Anamika can also have a few breather. She's been speaking from almost 30 minutes. Uh, Till that time, what I would do is just introduce you all to the company Armezo Solutions and our game-based assessment platform called Gamizo. So Armezo is 10 years now, and we specialize in online assessments and online surveys. We currently work with 100 plus companies in sectors like pharma, insurance, auto, IT, banking, and FMCG, conducting over 5 lakh assessments in a year. Uh, our solutions create a direct impact in hiring and training processes. This is done by customizing, automating, and localizing the online system to best fit in the processes. Thus, the absolute impact is when your recruiters spend less time filtering resumes and meet more relevant candidates for the right fit, resulting in overall reduction in your hiring costs. Um, as a company, we believe in innovation. Hence, we continuously work towards providing new ways or methods of conducting assessments. There where Gamizo was conceptualized, the intent to diversify in a unique way for psychometric assessments. Gamizo aims at providing game-based and simulation-based assessments which are more engaging, more reliable, and valid, as the focus is on measuring the subconscious behaviors rather than on the surface behaviors, unlike traditional assessments method. Uh, so these are some glimpses of our solution as such. Um, we are proud to introduce our game-based assessment platform, Gamizo, and the first game called Space Trek. The game, using explorations in the world of space, measure more than 30 personality traits and cognitive skills in an immersive, engaging, and scientific way. So you're able to see some of the screens of our assessment called Space Track. So some of the key features of this are, it's a mixed scale model of assessment, including Likert scale, decision tree, and forced choice items, based on Big Five model of personality with standardization to generate standard and customized reports. While it is able to tap on subconscious behaviors, at the same time, it controls test anxiety for the test taker. Measuring 30 plus personality traits and cognitive skills, which can be further mapped to 100 plus competencies to suit to all business needs. From one test, there are multiple reports we are able to generate from both an hiring perspective and training perspective. So you'll see a list called summary report, the fitment report, managerial report, and sales potential report, which has, for recruitment, has competencies plus interview notes. From a development perspective, there are notes for the individual test taker on how to work on certain competencies where the scores are actually less. So similarly, we have a sales potential reports in the sales function itself. I believe seeing the screens and the insight shared by Anamika, you would be excited to know more about our product. So we would be sending a login access to all of you to experience the game. This we would be probably doing by tonight itself, and you will be having a mail from our side giving a login ID and access to the entire game and a particular report. We would love to hear a feedback from you all, experienced HR professionals, about the game, about the report, and how we can take our discussion forward. With this note, we would be happy to address some of the queries of our participants.